In the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, this passage sets the stage for a deeply symbolic narrative. The mariner, an enigmatic and haunting figure, interrupts a wedding guest celebration to recount his tale of guilt and redemption. This thoughtless killing of the albatross unleashes a cascade of misfortune. Nature, once in harmony with the sailors, turns hostile and a spectral ship approaches, bringing death to all aboard except the mariner. His salvation begins when, without conscious intent, he blesses the water snakes, an act of unselfish appreciation for the beauty of nature. This moment marks the start of his reconciliation with the natural world and the divine order it represents. The mariner's tale concludes with a moral lesson imparted to the wedding guest: the necessity of loving and respecting all living beings, as all are interconnected and a part of a divine creation. By sharing his story, the mariner fulfills his penance, teaching others the importance of reverence for life and the spiritual unity between humanity and nature. In this part of the poem, an old sailor called the Ancient Mariner stops a man who is on his way to a wedding. The mariner, with his long grey beard and bright, strange eyes, blocks the man and starts talking to him. The wedding guest is surprised and annoyed, asking why the mariner is stopping him when the wedding has already started, and he, as a close relative of the bridegroom, needs to be there. The mariner grabs the guest's hand and begins his story with the mysterious words, "There was a ship." The guest, frustrated and shocked, tells the mariner to let him go and even calls him a crazy old man. The mariner drops his hand, but his intense stare seems to have a supernatural power, almost hypnotic, which compels the wedding guest to stop and listen. This mysterious and unsettling presence creates a sense of fear and fascination, key elements of the sublime.
At the start of the fourth stanza, the old mariner, who has bright eyes, decides to hold the wedding guest, in order to tell him his tragic experience. The guest is forced to listen to the mariner as a little child of 3 years old. In particular, in the fifth stanza, the guest sits on a stone, and he can do nothing but listen to the tragic tale of the mariner, who finally starts to speak. The bright eyes of the mariner suggest intense and haunting eyes, who reflect the strange and horrendous experience that he had. Indeed, in the sixth stanza, the old mariner begins to talk about the fact that before him and his crew left for the voyage, the ship in which they were on was cheered by everyone. Also, he describes how the ship sailed southward with a good wind and fair weather till it reached the line of the Antarctic. In the seventh stanza, the sun came up upon the left refers to the passage of time, but also gives a sense of a directionality that can be linked to the voyage of the mariner and his crew. Moreover, the specific mention of left and right positions symbolize different aspects of the journey. Indeed, the left, where the sun rises, could represent a new day, and the right, where the sun sets, could symbolize the end of it. In addition, the passage "out of the sea came he" gives an image of the sun that is emerging from the sea, making the natural world feel alive and active. The sea often represents the unknown, so the sun rising from it can express a sense of mystery or the start of something significant. He shone bright instead is a direct description of the sun's intensity, suggesting a powerful force. This could symbolize enlightenment or purity, in contrast to the tragic aspects of the mariner's story that will come later on. At the end of the stanza, the sun going down into the sea refers to the cyclical nature of time. This image of the sun disappearing back into the sea suggests the passage from the day to the night, reinforcing the theme of time's passage. Moreover, in the eighth stanza, the description of the sun rising higher and higher every day indicates the continuous passage of time. The sun reaches its zenith, that is over the mast at noon, a specific point of culmination during that day. In particular, the guest's emotional reaction to this tale, he beat his breast, is a sign of agitation and stress, as he hears the bridal music play, which means that the wedding ceremony is starting. However, the mariner continues to tell his tale. In the ninth stanza, the bride appears into the hall, red as a rose, that is linked to passion, love, and beauty. Instead, the merry minstrelsy refers to the musicians who accompany the bride's entrance. The phrase nodding their heads before her implies their approval and respect to the bride. This creates a festive image of a wedding ceremony. At the end, in the 10th stanza, the wedding guest beats again his breast, always to symbolize the agitation and stress that is feeling, as the wedding already started. Indeed, he wants to leave the mariner to take part in the wedding. However, he can do nothing but hear the mariner, who with his bright eyes continues to tell the story. In addition, this 10th stanza is almost a repetition of the 5th stanza, as they only differ in the first verse.
Introduces the storm as a powerful antagonist, emphasizing the sailors' fear and urgency as they flee southward. Then, at the lines number 41 and 42, we can find the idea of sublime with the nature's power and indifference. These lines reflect the overwhelming power of the storm, presenting nature as a force that is both majestic and terrifying, evoking feelings of awe and fear. In the 12th stanza, the ship is personified as a living entity as it struggles against the storm, and the comparison to a predator stalking its prey conveys a sense of danger. Then the environment becomes hostile in the 13th stanza, with cold mist and towering heights, creating a surreal landscape and a very big sense of desolation. The 14th stanza highlights isolation, as the crew sees neither humans nor animals, emphasizing a sense of despair amidst the icy surroundings. Moreover, in the following stanza, the pervasive presence of ice creates a claustrophobic atmosphere, with sounds of cracking ice reflecting the sailors' fear. In fact, here, lines 59 and 60, we can find the specific idea of sublime with the isolation. This description emphasizes the sense of desolation that contributes to the sublime experience, highlighting human vulnerability in the face of nature. All the 16th stanza represents the idea of sublime, so from line 63 to 66 we can notice the appearance of the albatross that symbolizes hope and the beauty of nature. The reverence with which the sailors greet it evokes a sense of wonder, illustrating the sublime aspect of nature, providing life and guidance. Then, in the 17th stanza, the breeze presence leads to a shift in fortune, allowing the ship to break free from the ice, signaling a new direction and potential redemption.
In the 18th stanza, the mariner is in a moment of great anguish. The setting is dominated by the image of loneliness and desolation. The mariner describes the total isolation he finds himself in, with the sea seeming endless and the atmosphere dark and suffocating. In this stanza, the idea of divine punishment for killing the albatross begins to clearly manifest. The mariner is tormented by remorse and guilt, but cannot understand how to atone for his sin. The 19th stanza marks a further development in the mariner's punishment. After killing the albatross, his fate becomes even darker. The environment described in the stanza is filled with supernatural forces that seems to trap the mariner in a hopeless destiny. The descriptions of the sea and the creatures inhabiting it are eerie and symbolic, suggesting that the mariner is stuck in a sentence beyond his understanding. The tension continues to rise in the 20th stanza as the mariner faces his fate. His physical and psychological suffering is palpable, and the idea of guilt and redemption becomes central. This stanza highlights the destructive effect his action has had on the environment around him, symbolizing a sort of rupture with the natural and the divine order. The mariner feels as if he is trapped in a spiral of suffering with no end, and his punishment seems inevitable. The action of killing the albatross introduces a profound moral consequence, inviting reflection on human actions and their impacts. The act of killing the albatross transforms the sublime experience from one of the beauty to one of guilt and dread, emphasizing the consequences of disrupting the natural order. The three stanzas are crucial in describing the progressive worsening of the mariner's situation and his increasing awareness of his own guilt. Coleridge uses powerful symbolism, such as the endless sea and the supernatural figures, to represent the protagonist's inner torment and his struggle with guilt and punishment.